Welcome everyone to the third Materials Matrix podcast for the Women's Matrix. This is our monthly conversation with women in the know to help us learn, become better and more efficient and happier at work. My name is Kimberley Walley. I am the director of an engineering consultancy called AEON Engineering, and having taken an unconventional route into science and engineering myself, I am passionate about empowering other women in STEM. And this podcast is a resource for the Women's Matrix as part of the wider Materials Matrix community. For more information, go and take a look at www.materialsmatrix.org, where you can sign up for a free account, or you can head over to social media. We are at Materials Matrix on Twitter and Materials Matrix Community on LinkedIn. So for this third podcast, we are talking all things transferable skills, and I'm joined by my guest here, Cathryn Hickey. Thank you so much for joining me, Cathryn. So we're going to do a bit of a whistle-stop tour for transferable skills, but I think a good place to start would be if you can talk to us a little bit about your career, and then we'll go on to talk about how transferable skills has been a part of that.
Yes, that's fine. Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here today and to be talking a bit about my experience. My career started, I went to Sheffield University and did a chemistry degree and then a PhD. And the area of my PhD was to do with organometallic chemistry, very much related to the chemical industry. So then when I was applying for jobs, I actually applied, well, effectively the oil industry, joining then ESSO Research in Abingdon. So that was very different. And I think that is probably the first area where my transferable skills from my PhD then led to my first job. After that, I then joined Shell International Petroleum Company in London, managing and being involved in their customer technical service for fuels and lubricants, and also involved in new business development about bringing new products to market. And then that led me into then managing the technical team for the whole of the UK organisation for fuels, lubricants and health and safety. I think from my perspective, I knew I had developed over that time within the company because I was with them for nearly sort of 15, 16 years. And I wanted to perhaps move into different areas and perhaps a bit more mainstream of the business, moving away from technical, but also using a lot of my experience. So I decided then to have a bit of a career change, but to use it to show that I could actually work in other sectors. So education had always been an interest for me. And a passion to a certain extent. So after that, I left at Shell and joined Learn Direct, and I took up the role as regional director for Birmingham and the West Midlands. And it was very much about delivering online learning to individuals who want to get back into employment, as well as also working with businesses so that they could have online learning for their staff to fit in effectively with their sort of manufacturing processes and time away from the production line, that type of thing. From there, I went to Summit Skills, which was the Sector Skills Council, as the operations director. And that was to develop, first of all, a sector skills agreement for what was called the building services engineering sector. So I managed a team of 20 odd people across the whole of the UK to actually develop that and put it in place, and then very much working again with the regional stakeholders in the different parts of the country to match what the employers in our sector were wanting in their individual regions. One of the things that came out of that was about environmental technologies, the new green skills for those. And so at that time, I led then a bid to develop a National Skills Academy for environmental technologies. We were successful in getting £3 million of money. And from that, then I took on also the role of the first executive director for that Skills Academy. That then, in a way, probably set the scene for my role in AMRIC. So AMRIC very much now, which is the Applied Materials Research, Innovation and Commercialisation Company, combines, I suppose, technical and also skills and training. and it's very much about helping companies bring new innovation to fully commercialized products and processes. So again, using engagement across the sector and also within the region, and very much now defining the business model, and from that then securing investment, which you've been part of, and we've been successful in getting the Strength in Places bid.
Wow. So, I mean, I didn't realise, I suppose, the amount of work that you did in the kind of training and educational sector. That must have been a big change from, you know, working at ESO and doing very, very technical things. How did you do it? How did you make the jump?
A few ups and downs along the way. So when I went to ESO, they were looking for people. It was their first time of recruiting a PhD scientist for a number of years, because that had been after sort of a depression. And they wanted somebody to work on the petroleum side. I'd never worked with petrol, diesel, anything like that. So that was really my first area. They obviously saw the skills that I'd developed through my science degree and then doing my PhD and that type of work. And they saw that as being transferable into the area of petroleum, where effectively I had to learn and understand better what was involved. And then I worked with a team of, we call them very professional, what we call raters, who drive the cars on rolling roads and actually rate the performance of the car. So I had to understand all that, working with them very much on a one-to-one basis. And then the other key area then was about collaborating with the automotive manufacturers across Europe, building credibility with those companies, that we want to work with them collaboratively, possibly on perhaps quite secretive projects, because it was all about bringing new cars to market, but they had to be able to run on the fuels and the lubricants in the marketplace. So that's why they had to be able to test them and share understanding and experience about that. So I think, obviously it was an opportunity that ESO saw that I might be able to meet, and I did meet. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
So it sounds, if you kind of strip it back, to me, there's a lot of stakeholder management, stakeholder interaction. And I suppose that would be the same. I'm just thinking, knowing the work that you do at AMRIC and as part of the Midlands Industrial Ceramics Group, that I would say is definitely, one of your strengths. Stakeholder management and collaboration, where you're trying to, just thinking back to the work that you did in kind of skills education, trying to get people on board with an idea that you're going to try and help them. And I suppose what you've just said about ESO, that's similar, isn't it? Working with raters to try and come to a mutually satisfactory conclusion. Yeah.
A lot of the work, I think, across all the organisations that I've been involved in is dealing with people, talking to people, particularly from a technical background and dealing with technical products. One of the key areas was to be able to describe some of the technical issues, but in a quite a simplistic way, so that ordinary motorists may be able to understand what I'm telling them about perhaps the performance of their car on the fuel or the lubricant. Also, in companies, they're not non-technical people, perhaps salespeople, so that they could understand about differences in specifications and things like that. And then more recently, obviously, the work in the various skills areas, very much about building collaboration, building an understanding of each other's objectives when you're dealing with other stakeholders, i.e. you want to get here, I want to get perhaps to a similar position. Can we work together? If we work together, it's perhaps going to be something better than if we did it on our own, and we could get more benefits, say, for the region, more positive outcomes, that type of thing. Yes. Sorry, the other thing was going back to your other comment about quite a dramatic change in terms of moving to education. I think there's a couple of things there. I had an interest in education, so I'd been, alongside my normal day-to-day work, I'd done a number of governance positions in schools and with universities. So that gave me more detailed understanding as well. And I think that shows people that, you know, it's not just necessarily what you do in your normal day job, it's other things around that is important in transferable skills. But then ultimately, when when I am in that position working in the area of education, it's all the other things in my management skills that I wanted to show that then I had to be able to use in that. So that was not only about like the leadership, pulling a team of people together, making them want to work together, making them want to thrive and do effectively the business that we wanted them to do. It's about operational management, about making sure that things happen on time, that you achieve your targets or your aims that you have to do in a given period of time. The whole thing about negotiation, because particularly with Learn Direct, we had specific contracts with companies who used to deliver the training for us. So it was about management of those contracts. They had to deliver what we required them to do in a fixed like quarter of the year, that type of thing. So yes, it's picking up on all those other skills that I'd developed, and hence it gave me an opportunity to demonstrate those, and then those have been able to take me to other jobs because I've shown that both in a technical area and in a non-technical area, I still have those transferable skills that I can bring to the fore in what I do. Yes,
I think it's really important, and perhaps something that I've not thought of before. It's not just what you're doing in your 9 to 5. So, you know, doing passion projects, things that interest you outside of your normal day to day. You're developing skills there that could be transferred into your 9 to 5 or into a different 9 to 5 if you want to go and follow that passion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it ties in a lot to earlier conversations that we've had around soft skills and the importance of soft skills and where to learn soft skills. And I think if you step back and think, well, yeah, I might be negotiating a contract here, but I'm dealing with people, I'm managing stakeholders, I'm learning how to communicate effectively. They're all part of that, aren't they? Just, you know, in whatever industry that you're in.
Yeah.
That's really useful. Thank you very much, Cathryn, for talking us through that. I suppose before we wrap up, do you have any advice for anyone struggling to identify their transferable skills?
Okay, I think first of all, start off thinking about what have you been doing in your life to date, both from perhaps an education point of view, perhaps, you know, a Saturday job, or within a family environment where you may be helping like your parents do certain things, or even from a volunteering perspective, because I know, you know, lots of young people do like Duke of Edinburgh Award things, sport activities, that type of thing. So think about all of those, and you know, what have you actually done in those things? Perhaps what have you achieved? What have you found hard? What have you perhaps found easy? And if necessary, what sometimes is helpful is talk to friends who you've been perhaps doing some of that with, and just get them to perhaps say, you know, how do you think I've been doing this? What do you think I've actually done here? So that you can actually put a list of perhaps what you think are transferable skills, or some of the things. And often when we talk about transferable skills, there are, I don't know, there's a set of words around it. And I think sometimes people don't really understand, or those words don't naturally come to how I describe myself. So perhaps the other thing is then, if you look up online transferable skills, often different companies list out whole things about transferable skills, and that then gives you a list. So then what you probably need to do is match some of the ideas that you've come up with some of those words, and when you read what their descriptions are, and then you're perhaps then trying to not only identify where you've got some skills, but also some words to describe it, which other people would relate to.
I think it's useful to have somebody else's input, because I mean, I suppose I'm not very good about describing myself or shouting about my good points. So I think having a friend or a colleague that you trust, somebody in your network that you could say, you know, these are the things that I've done, the things that I've achieved, you know, to get somebody else's input, because I know I'm really bad at trying to give, I'm very good at my own negative feedback.
I know. Yeah, I know it's always hard to talk about yourself, both in a positive light and to a certain extent, not exactly a negative, but areas for improvement as well. So yes, if you've got a good friend, a confidant, somebody who you feel comfortable in talking to, that's always helpful.
Brilliant. That's been really great. Thank you very much for your time, Cathryn. There's going to be lots more information and content coming out around transferable skills, both on social media and on the materials matrix, women's matrix area. We'll leave it there for today. Thank you so much for your time again. And join me next month where we'll be hosting podcast number 4. Can't quite believe it. But if you have any questions, I'm on the materials matrix. Cathryn, are you on there as well?
Yes, I'm on there, yes.
So you can find us on there to ask any more questions. But thanks so much for your time again, and I will speak to you soon.